go. How exciting. Um, so, ladies and gents, we are going to be practicing with my picture here. Last time we were together, we were just trying to warp things around and make people into monsters, which is nice and fun, but we weren't going for realism. Today we're going for more realistic warping. So, I'm going to show you guys two things. One is how to make someone look bigger and how to make someone look smaller, because those are primarily the things that you do in Photoshop when we talk about body warping. Now, before I begin, I just want to remind you of all the videos and talks that we've had regarding these effects on people's esteem. Remember that some of these things do cause people to not believe in themselves. And we're ultimately trying to make something that points this out, that Photoshop has negative effects on people's body image. So please remember that we're not doing this because this is a good thing. We're doing this to warn people that it's bad. So, that said, let's start getting into body warping. So here's a picture of myself. I think I look fine. But even I, after I photoshopped myself, started feeling a little bit bad about how I looked. So just remember, this does have a negative effect on a lot of people's bodies. So first things first, your liquify tool is up here in the corner. And that's the thing that helps you warp your body. This is what you primarily use to make things bigger on your body. So, a couple of tools I want to remind you of. The freeze tool is really valuable for this. As we saw before, it was great for making horns or making your ears look like elf ears, things like that. And remember, the freeze tool makes sure that things don't move. We want to start with a freeze over everything we don't want to move, and then thaw the parts that we do want to change. So, I've covered everything in red to freeze everything. Then I'm going to take my thaw tool, and I'm going to carve out the shape that I want to warp things into. So in this case, I'm going to try and round out my shoulder, give myself a little bit of traps on the side. Wow, that's not going to look realistic. I'm going to shave that down just a little bit. One thing when we're doing body warping things, guys, a little bit is a long way. A little bit is a long way. So even a small change can make yourself look much, much, much bigger, muscular, etc. So be careful, don't overdo it. Overdoing it is an easy way to make things look unrealistic. So, now that I've got myself carved out, I can start rounding out my shoulders. And my traps here. Let's see, I'm going to thaw a little bit more and just take a look how it looks. Looks a little bit lumpy, so I'm going to take my push tool and just round it out a little bit more. One thing that helps is notice my shirt's a solid color, so when I warp things around, they don't get really messed up. They look still relatively realistic. Be careful if you have a model that is wearing patterns, for instance, because that shows up a lot more. So I'm going to try and give myself some biceps and some triceps here. And push those out too. It'd be freaky if we could do this in real life. So I'm just trying to do some corrections because notice I warped my sleeve there. So that looks all messed up. So I'm actually going to reset part of that because I want my sleeve to look normal. There we go. That looks better. Let's thaw, take a look at how that looks. Not bad. Now the one trick with this is you kind of have to know your muscle groups in order to make someone look realistically swole. And again, try not to overdo it. A little bit is a long way. So generally, if you're trying to make someone look muscular, you don't want to do too much, because it looks overdone really quickly. Let me actually push that way. And I'll take the heel brush later. Let's take a look. Looks a little bit ridiculous from there. What's up? It should look pretty So that's how you make things look more muscular. So making something skinnier is a little bit harder. I'm going to do my left side over here. One reason why the left side is going to be a lot easier is because I'm against the green screen here. You'll notice when I do this other side, it's going to be a lot harder because I have to blend in my backgrounds. So I'm just going to copy and paste. So I took a selection tool, and I'm going to copy and paste. And it's a matter of pushing things in and then tilting them. And then erasing what you don't need. So I'm going to take my eraser, go through.
You changed nothing.
What do you mean change nothing? I'm making my waist smaller, dude.
Oh. I thought you were making his arm smaller. I was like,
nope. So you notice I can tilt over, but notice I'm having a little bit of trouble because if I go too far over, if I grab too much green, I grab my forearm. If I don't grab enough green, notice my natural form still shows. So, God, that looks ridiculous. So,
honestly, it looks like you trained all.
So, again, you're going to want to go through, erase, so that things start appearing more normally. What's going to be hard is that I've got my hands on my waist, so I have to be real careful about going too far in, because notice, if I go there, I start appearing. My natural waist starts appearing.
That corset. Hourglass waist.
That hourglass waist. So, ways that you can fix that. For instance, you can just grab more green. Whoops, I was not on the right layer. Let me do that right. So I'm going to just grab some additional green over here. Grab some of the curtain. I need to be on the right layer to do that, though. And bring it over. You'll notice I can get most of this, but I still have to go back in and get my arm, because now my arm's covered up. Remember, you can grow or shrink, so notice I'm growing this out a little bit. God, that looks so gross. Growing that out a little bit, I'm just going to go back in, hide my layers, and then select my arm so I can bring it up above the backgrounds. So let's unhide those. You'll have to really think about your pose, because you notice what's happening with my pose right now.
Oh, you look like Donkey Kong.
Like Donkey Kong. So I'm just adjusting and seeing how I can make it look. I may have gotten a little too extreme, gotten too greedy with that like tiny waist. And remember, you can always blend back in with your eraser. Undo very carefully, make sure you're using a eraser of a proper size. Blend back in. My hair? What hair?
Right there on your arm. No. Your bicep.
Oh, right there?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you have some troubles like that, if you end up warping too much, did I teach you guys about the heel brush?
Yeah.
Take your heel brush, select a portion that looks normal. Go back in.
You're on the wrong way.
And just blend back in.
It looks like your biceps like on the other
Oops.
side of your arm.
My biceps. Yeah, that's like one of the things where I'm not great with how muscles are supposed to go. So that breaks the illusion. But notice, one thing, this was a bad pose for me to take because I can't make my arm look natural and touch my body.
You added a...
So, there's the basics there. when you warp, when you make something skinnier, again, most of that is not going to be liquefied. Most of that's going to be taking a copy and pushing it in. But notice on this layer, when I push in, the background's going to mess up a lot. God, that looks weird. Well, I'm making one side of me skinny and one side of me not skinny. That's why it looks really unnatural. And then you can blend back out. Now, the one problem with this is that I don't have a solid layer behind me, so it's going to be a lot of work for me to get... God. Sorry, now I'm just taking in the weirdness that is this body now.
Your head looks so unnatural.
It does. It's terrible. So notice I can get this in, but the background is not blending in correctly. Why? Because it's not a solid background, unlike the green screen. So it's going to take a lot more work for me to actually blend all that in. To do that, for the most part, that's, again, going to be a lot of copying and pasting and blending in. So let me try and take this part right here. Actually, let me do this. Ooh, those aren't lining up very correctly. So that's the basics, guys. A lot of this now is just cleanup. Notice if I want to make something very specific skinny, I might have to select it with a tool. So for instance, if I want to make my forearm super skinny, actually let's just do my bicep because that's going to be easier. Forearm's going to be kind of hard. Unlike our other projects, you're probably going to want to take more than just your background. Let me undo some of this because I've done a lot and it's going to be hard to follow. If I just want to make my arm skinny rather than my entire body, select more than you need, because you need some of that background to go with you. So I'm going to take this, all of this. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste it. And then I'm going to move it in. And maybe tilt it just a little so my shoulders line up better. And then again, go back in, blend in your edges. And look how skinny my arm is now. Jeez. So notice, my arm looks pretty natural. It looks really, really skinny now. But my background's going to be a little bit messed up. So think about that when you actually are taking your pictures. This is going to be the hardest part, is making sure that you're against a background that's easy to edit. Questions, comments, confusions?